Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about are three really, in a very real way, three extraordinary watches from Jager-LeCoultre. This came up originally in 1958. They had the Geophysic Year in 1958. And they had a watch for people at that time. Then they came back, I think it was around 2014, with another set of geophysic watches. And what they wanted to do, the first one they had was this Geophysics 1958. What they wanted to do with this watch I thought was very interesting. They wanted to make a movement that was really an excellent movement, all right, something that was really special, but they wanted to put it into a watch that could serve as a dress watch, as a sports watch, as an everyday watch, but something that a guy could wear every day and have a great watch. Or they could go out to dinner and have a great watch, or they could go to the ball game and watch it with a great watch. So this is the kind of watch that they had in mind at Geophysic. Now, there were a lot of things about it. The movement, the 898/1 had a 43-hour power reserves, automatic, 4 hertz. What they added to it, and this was added not so much on top of, but a rebuild. They added this anti-shock, anti-magnetic system to it, a lubricant-free ceramic rotor for the winding system, and they also set it to performance over the COSC specs. So this was really, I mean, this was, I suppose I'd like to call it a watchmaker's watch, and someone who really appreciates an excellent movement. The dial itself is, I don't know, want to use the term non-offensive. It just, I don't know why. It strikes me as sort of a school wall clock. Nothing really was earth-shaking about it, but the more I learn about the watch, the more I like the looks of it, simply because I knew what was underneath. And the dial is, I mean, very clear. It's got the 12, 3, 6, and 9, and then it has the 5-minute numbers for the number of the minute, like 5, 10, 15, and so forth. The hands are luminescent, and they have a good size hand. I'm not the descriptions of the hands. I'm trying to think what kind they were. Just as they look like a sword hand is what I would think. And then they have a central second. So I mean, it's not a complex to look at watch, but it's really an excellent watch. Now, the original MSRP in 2014 was $9,800. And today, the least expensive one I could find was $8,400. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't some that are or have been sold for less than that, but that was what I was able to find, or it could be negotiated. Now, back in 2014, they had 800 limited editions of these. The size, they're 38.5 millimeters. That was sort of a nice size for just about, for most guys. Water resistance to 100 meters. I'm not sure why they did that. Somebody going down 300 feet for a watch like this, but they did. And so this was the thinking behind it. Now, why is this an important watch? At least why do I think it's an important watch? I usually like a lower hertz and a lot of other things, but I think what it has a very well built movement, the 898, And they worked a great deal on it to give it the kind of properties that are really like a $50,000 watch would have. Well, that I think was in there. Perhaps not $50,000, 20, whatever. And anyway, so this is the Jager-LeCoultre Geophysic 1958. Now, the same time they came out with this one, they came out with two other ones I want to talk about, both of which I like a lot. And like I said, with this one, the more I look at it, the more it just sort of like, wow, that is a nice watch. And very much for the reasons I think that it was developed for. You got an everyday watch, you got a nice watch. I mean, if you want a one-watch collection, it's more for a person who just wants a good, reliable watch rather than a collector like myself or most others who really have this kind of interest in watch. But something about it. How do you explain that? Okay, now the second watch in this series, the Geophysics series, is it's called the True Second. Now the True Second, they call it the True Second because what happens when it's a jumping second, like you can find on every quartz watch, they have a jumping second. The true second aspect of it is that for the most part, people aren't going to be worried about fractions of a second. And it's also, they used to have what they call doctor's watches, and they'd detect the pulse and they could see the pulse move through. And so anyway, this was the second one. Now the caliber was a 770. Otherwise, it was very similar. It was an automatic. It had a 40-hour power reserve. It was a little bigger. It was closer to 40 millimeters, 39.6 millimeters. Water resistance for 5 bar, 8 hour minute, jumping seconds. This was the difference, what they call the true second. The hands, the style of hands were called the baquet. I'm not sure, it's a French term, and I really try to get the French right. Now, this one I found was brand new, unworn, was $7,878. Most of them were more expensive than that, used ones. So this was, I mean, it's still a lot of money, but what about this watch that I find just fantastic? It has nothing to do with the dial. The dial to me is, it's unoffensive, but there's nothing about it one way or the other. But it's, it's a clear dial. You can tell what time it is at a glance. But what I really like about it is the mechanism they put in. Now, essentially, for the jumping second, what they have is that the movement uses the true second spring. I like to think of it as a remontoire, but it's not quite a remontoire. It's more something that's pushed, but not rewound. And then every second, the whip comes around and releases it, and the thing jumps. This is a mechanism, though, behind it. Now, in addition to the jumping seconds, they had the GyroLab balance, which looks like sort of a double T. And that's another aspect of it that was very special. The escapement, the pallet fork, and so forth are pretty standard. Same with the hairspring. But the way the whole mechanism is set up is just, to me, extremely cool. And to think of all of this sort of underneath in order to have this jumping second, or what they call a true second, I think is, I don't know, I just thought, man, that would be a neat thing to know that that's going on your watch as opposed to sort of run-of-the-mill. But this is another one I like. Now, the final one is the Jager-LeCoultre Geophysic Universal Time. Now, the universal time is built on top of the 770. Now, the 770 is the jumping second, or the true second watch movement. This one is the 772. And it turns out that there was just one thing that was added to the movement in order to have it set up as a world timer. Now, the lowest price that I could find advertised was $9,800 on a pre-owned one. This watch, I've been looking for a world timer for I don't know how long. I haven't got one because first the pandemic came along and there was no place I was going to get to go, but still it's one I'm very tempted by. Not the least of which is this wonderful movement underneath it. Like I said, it's 4 hertz, which I like the lower frequencies, but that's okay. This one I really like a lot. 41.6 millimeters. All of them are in a nice size. This one is a little closer to what is my limit, but not over it. And the way they have the world timer, the name, like Sydney has an underline right at the front. Athens, London, Azores, Paris, and New York, they all have that little underline. What that means is that they use daylight saving time, and so you can make adjustments for that as well. Anyway, so what happened to the Geophysic line? Well, like I said, they came out, I think it was right around 2014. I'm pretty sure it was that, maybe a year before that. But this line of watches was built by Jager-LeCoultre, centered around really excellence in movement. And at the base of it is a 1958. Then they developed the true second, again with a totally different movement. And then finally the Geophysic universal time with the same base that the true second has. And it's something, I think, that someone who really appreciates mechanical horology would find. The only problem I have with all 3 of these, I think they're too expensive. I mean, like, I'm thinking of this. I was looking at this one, and thought, man, I really like to have it. Then I found a Mont Blanc world timer that looked almost exactly like it. I don't know if it's going to have a really great movement or something. If it had a Minerva in it, I would think so. But these are tempting to me. And if I got a good deal on the Geophysic universal time, man, I tell you, it'd be hard to pass up. Well, listen, I'd be very interested to hear what you think. I would be fascinated to hear if you have one of these watches. And this is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. And until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection.